Aaron Vale walked quietly through the starship Helios Vanguard, trying his best to calm his racing heart. The ship hummed gently around him, the way it always did. But today, the soft sound made him more nervous than usual. He had told himself again and again that he only needed a few minutes of fresh air in the ship's arboretum, a quiet place filled with artificial plants and soft blue lights. But the truth was simple and impossible to deny. He hoped she would be there. Ambassador Lyra Solen. Even thinking her name made his chest feel tight. He tried to shake the feeling off. He was a trained officer, not some teenager with a crush. But every time he saw her in the command chambers or during diplomatic briefings, he felt something stir inside him. Something he was not used to. Something he did not know how to control. He reached the doors of the arboretum. They opened with a soft hiss, and the cool scent of the bioluminescent plants washed over him. Blue and violet lights glowed from leaves, casting a calm, dreamlike shine across the room. And there she was. Lyra stood near the center, surrounded by tall, glowing vines. She was studying one of the plants, her fingers hovering just above the petals. She rarely touched the plants. Her synthetic components were sensitive, and she often said she did not want to disturb the natural patterns of their energy. Her eyes glowed faintly, a soft amber light shifting with her thoughts. She looked peaceful, almost too peaceful for someone who debated alien leaders on a daily basis and handled crises with perfect calm. Aaron froze for a moment. He had not expected to find her alone. He considered turning away, pretending he never entered. But she turned her head the moment he stepped inside. "Lieutenant Vale," she said in her smooth, calm voice, "you look surprised." He forced himself to smile. "I didn't think anyone else would be here." Her head tilted slightly, the way she often did when analyzing emotions. "You seek quiet, then?" "Yes," he said. His voice came out too fast. "I mean, yes. A little quiet." She nodded and turned her attention back to the glowing vines. "It is a peaceful place. Many crew members say it helps them think." Aaron walked closer, though his steps felt heavier than usual. His heart thumped louder with each one. He told himself again that he just needed to relax. No need to say anything foolish. No need to break his professional stance. But then she spoke again. Softly, this time. "You seem tense. Today." Tense. That was an understatement. Aaron felt heat rising to his face, and he forced himself to breathe slowly. "It's nothing. Just long shifts." Lyra's amber eyes turned back toward him, glowing a little brighter. "Your pulse rate suggests emotional stress," she said gently. "Not physical exhaustion." He laughed nervously. "You can tell that?" "My sensors read small details," she replied. "But I only analyze when someone seems troubled. I hope I am not making you uncomfortable." "No. Not at all," he said too quickly, and then rubbed his neck awkwardly. "You're just very observant." She studied him carefully, then stepped slightly closer. Aaron felt his breath catch. She wasn't standing too near, but still close enough for him to see the faint patterns of light that flowed beneath her skin, like tiny rivers of data and life. For weeks he had admired those lights from a distance. They were a symbol of what she was, half human, half synthetic, built for diplomacy and peace. But to him, they were something else too. Something beautiful in a way he never found words for. "Lieutenant," she said softly, "if something is troubling you, you may speak. You are always steady in your duties. Today you seem distracted." Aaron swallowed. Hard. His heart was thudding so strongly he was sure she could hear it. Or worse, sense it. "Lyra," he said slowly, "it's not trouble. It's just something I haven't known how to say." She blinked, her glowing eyes focusing more sharply. Then perhaps you should say it. Silence can create more confusion than truth. He knew she was right. She always spoke in a calm, logical way. But there was a warmth in her voice today that pulled the words out of him, no matter how hard he tried to hold them back. He looked down at the glowing petals near his hand, trying to borrow some courage from their steady light. "I've admired you for a long time," he said quietly. Lyra paused. He could feel her attention shift completely toward him. The vines hummed softly around them, filling the heavy silence. Aaron swallowed again. "I don't mean just your work, or your calm, or your diplomatic skills. I mean you. I admire you." She did not interrupt, so he kept speaking, his voice trembling slightly. "You're beautiful, Lyra. Not just on the outside. Everything about you. The way you move, the way you think, the way you speak. I never wanted to make things awkward. But every time I see you, I feel." He stopped. His courage ran out all at once. Lyra stood perfectly still, her glowing eyes fixed on him. Her expression was unreadable, and for a moment, the silence felt sharp enough to cut. Aaron's face burned. His ears felt hot. His entire body felt like it had been thrown into a star. "I'm sorry," he said quickly, stepping back. "I didn't mean to. I know you probably don't feel, I didn't want to say it like that." Lyra lifted a hand slightly, stopping his rushed words with a gentle gesture. "Aaron," she said softly. Hearing his first name from her lips made his heart jump. She stepped toward him, slow and careful, as if she was approaching something fragile. "I did not expect you to say that," she said. "Your emotions, they are very clear." He wished he could disappear into the glowing vines. His face felt like it might explode. Lyra looked down at her hands, as if trying to understand something she couldn't fully measure. "I have always known you held positive regard for me," she continued. "But I did not realize the depth of it. Your words are strong." Aaron felt a painful twist in his stomach. Strong, too sudden, too stupid. "I shouldn't have said it," he whispered. "I know you have your responsibilities, and I don't want to complicate anything." Lyra looked up again, and this time there was something different in her expression, something almost human in its softness. "Your honesty is not a complication," she said. "It is meaningful." Aaron's heart lifted for a second, then fell just as quickly when she took a small breath and said, "I need to think." Of course. Of course she needed to think. She was designed for logic, for calm, for careful analysis, and he had just thrown raw emotion at her, like some kind of fool. He nodded quickly, too embarrassed to look at her. "It's fine. I understand." But before she could say more, the ship suddenly jolted violently, lights flashing red across the ceiling. A deep alarm echoed through the corridors. The Helios Vanguard never sounded that alarm unless something was terribly wrong. Lyra instantly shifted into full alert mode. "Distress signal detected," she said, her voice returning to its diplomatic strength. "Source: the Varellan frontier." Aaron straightened, trying to shake off his embarrassment. Duty came first, always. The room lights shifted to emergency mode. Lyra looked at him again, a faint trace of unfinished emotion still in her eyes. "Our conversation," she began. He forced a steady breath. "Later," he said. "The colony needs us." She nodded, though her expression lingered with something unsaid. They both turned and rushed toward the command deck, running side by side through the glowing halls of the ship. Aaron's heart was still pounding, but this time it wasn't just from fear or embarrassment. It was from the strange, fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, everything he confessed was not entirely one-sided. But whatever answer Lyra held inside her would have to wait. The galaxy was calling, and the moment between them faded into the background as the ship prepared for danger. Part 1 ends with the threat rising, emotions unresolved, and a new storm waiting ahead. The Helios Vanguard moved through space at high speed, its engines glowing bright blue as it rushed toward the Varellan frontier. The command deck was filled with tension, officers moving quickly between stations and speaking in sharp, focused voices. Something was very wrong at the colony. The distress signal was not a normal one. It carried fragmented data, strange energy fluctuations, and a deep static that sounded almost like a scream. Aaron stood near the tactical console, trying to focus on his tasks, but his mind kept drifting back to the moment in the Arboretum. He could still see Lyra's face when he confessed. The soft glow in her eyes, the confusion, the hesitation, and then the sudden alarm that pulled them both apart. He shook his head, forcing himself back to reality. This was not the time to think about emotions. The colony needed help. Lives were at risk. Lyra stood on the opposite side of the deck, speaking with Captain Rourke in a calm, steady tone. Even in crisis, she was composed. Her synthetic lights glowed slightly brighter, showing she was processing a huge amount of data. The colony's communication systems have collapsed, she reported. Environmental readings are unstable. Gravity levels are shifting in irregular patterns. Captain Rourke frowned. Could this be an attack? Possibly, Lyra said. But the signals don't match any known weapon. Aaron stepped forward. What about a natural disaster? A rift or magnetic storm? Lyra shook her head. The energy signature is artificial. Something is active on the surface. Something powerful. The captain nodded firmly. Prepare an away team. Lieutenant Vale, Ambassador Solène, you're both on it. We need diplomatic and tactical support. Aaron felt a jolt in his chest. He and Lyra together, again so soon after that moment. Part of him felt nervous, but another part felt strangely relieved. At least he wouldn't have to keep avoiding her. Lyra glanced at him briefly, but her expression was unreadable. All professional. No hint of the conversation they left behind. He didn't know whether to be grateful or worried. Within minutes, they were in the shuttle bay, stepping into a small landing craft, along with 2 other crew members, a medic named Wren and an engineer named Dalen. The shuttle doors closed, and Aaron felt the familiar rumble as they left the safety of the Vanguard. Through the front window, the Varellan frontier came into view, a rocky planet with a thin atmosphere and glowing orange cracks in the ground. But something was off. Strange distortions shimmered across the sky, like invisible waves bending the air. What is that? Wren whispered. Dalen checked his scanner. The readings are all over the place. Gravitational anomalies? Energy spikes. Reality itself looks unstable. Lyra stared through the window with calm focus. Something is affecting the natural physics of the area. We must approach with caution. Aaron nodded, though a small worry stirred inside him. If gravity and physics were unstable, then the mission could become extremely dangerous. But he had trained for hardships, and he trusted Lyra perhaps more than he should. The shuttle touched down near the colony's main outpost. The buildings looked intact, but the air shimmered strangely, like heat waves rising from the ground. The team stepped out carefully, scanning the area. No people, no movement, no sound. The silence felt heavy. Aaron looked around slowly. Where is everyone? Lyra's eyes glowed brighter as she scanned the environment. There are life signs, but they are weak and scattered underground. Something must have forced them below the surface. Why underground? Dalen asked. What could drive them all there? Before anyone could answer, a sharp pulse of energy rippled across the ground. It felt like a wave of pressure slamming into their bodies. Aaron staggered, grabbing his helmet. What was that? Wren gasped. Lyra didn't move. She stood perfectly still, her lights flickering. The energy signature is increasing. The source is beneath the colony. We must investigate immediately. They moved through the empty outpost, past houses with open doors, overturned chairs, tools dropped on the ground. Whatever happened here, it happened fast. The people had no time to pack or organize. It looked like they fled in panic. Aaron's stomach twisted. This doesn't look like a normal crisis. Lyra nodded. Fear levels among the colonists must have been high when the event began. Aaron hesitated. Can you sense emotional traces? Only indirectly, she replied. Strong emotional outbursts leave patterns in neural and environmental data. He blinked. So you can read fear? Not exactly. I can detect the impact fear has on a person's environment, but I cannot feel it myself. Not exactly. Not exactly. Aaron looked at her carefully. You can feel some things, though. She paused. He wondered if she would ignore the comment. Pretend she didn't hear it. But she turned her head slowly. I am still learning, she said softly. He opened his mouth to reply, but another energy wave hit them, stronger this time. The ground shook, and the air cracked like glass. A deep rumbling echoed from below. That's coming from the old mining tunnels, Dalen said, pointing toward a large metal hatch built into the ground. Lyra walked toward it with strong, steady steps. That is where the energy source is located. Aaron moved beside her, though the air now felt heavy, making it harder to breathe. The closer they got to the hatch, the more intense the distortions became. It felt like the world was bending slightly sideways. They opened the hatch and climbed down into the dark tunnel. The walls glowed with strange cracks of light, pulsing like a heartbeat. What happened down here? Wren whispered. Lyra touched the wall lightly. Her lights flickered, reflecting the strange energy. The colonists discovered something ancient, something that should have remained buried. The tunnel led them to a large underground chamber. In the center stood a massive alien device, a strange machine made of white stone and glowing veins, humming with unstable power. It looked alive, almost breathing. Aaron took a step back. Lyra stared at it, her eyes glowing bright amber. It reacts to neural frequency and emotional resonance, Wren gasped. Emotions? You mean it reads feelings? Lyra nodded. Yes, and it amplifies them. Dalen swallowed nervously. If the colonists panicked, the machine would have magnified their fear. Lyra finished, creating distortions, possibly trapping them below. Trucked him. Aaron felt a chill creep up his spine. Why would a machine do that? Not intentionally, Lyra said. This relic appears to be a forgotten system of an ancient species. It likely malfunctioned. Aaron took a slow breath, but the air felt heavier than before. His own pulse echoed in his ears. He didn't want to feel afraid, but something about the machine made his thoughts louder, sharper, harder to control. He sensed Lyra step closer to him. Your heart rate is rising, she said gently. The machine reacts to emotional spikes. You must remain calm. 1. I'm trying, he said through gritted teeth. Another pulse burst outward from the relic, flooding the room with shimmering waves. The air thickened around them, pressing against their bodies like some invisible force. Aaron staggered again. Lyra's lights flickered wildly now. She stepped toward the relic. I can link with it, she said. My hybrid systems might stabilize its resonance. Dalen shook his head quickly. That could overload your circuits. Lyra turned to him with calm certainty. If we do nothing, the colony will collapse. I will attempt a controlled interface. Aaron grabbed her arm. Lyra, wait. If that machine reacts to emotions, what if it reacts to yours? She looked up at him, her amber eyes glowing softly. My emotional output is limited. I am the safest option. He didn't know whether that relieved him or hurt him. She gently freed her arm and stepped forward. The moment she touched the relic, her entire body stiffened. Light surged through her veins, and her eyes widened. The machine pulsed, reacting strongly to her hybrid nature. Aaron rushed forward. "Lyra," she gasped, her voice strained. "The machine. It is reading everything. Every thought. Every signal. Disconnect," he ordered. "I can't," she whispered. "It has linked to me. I need another mind to balance the connection." Her eyes found his. Aaron felt panic rise, but he forced it down. This wasn't the time to freeze. "What do I need to do?" "Take my hand," she said, her voice trembling. "Focus your thoughts. Stay steady. If the machine senses chaos, it will intensify the distortions." Aaron grabbed her hand tightly. Instantly, a shock ran up his arm, and suddenly he felt everything: the relic's energy, Lyra's data streams, and the mingling of their thoughts. His mind echoed with memories, feelings, fears, and something else, something warm. He felt her confusion the moment he confessed in the Arboretum. Her curiosity, her hesitation, the way she replayed his words again and again, trying to understand why his emotions were so strong. She wasn't emotionless. Not at all. She was overwhelmed. Lyra gasped, trying to stabilize the connection. "Aaron, your emotions, they are very bright." "Sorry," he muttered. "No," she whispered. "Do not suppress them. They are helping." The machine began to calm, its bright pulses slowing to a steady rhythm. Aaron felt their thoughts merge again. He felt her wonder. Her fear not of danger, but of failing him. Of disappointing him. Of misunderstanding something important. Something she didn't have the courage to say earlier. She wasn't rejecting him. She was afraid her feelings weren't real enough to matter. Aaron squeezed her hand. "We'll talk about that later," he whispered through the connection. "Right now, stay with me." Lyra's voice trembled in his mind. "I am here." The relic glowed brighter, but with controlled energy now. The distortions faded. The ground steadied. The machine had stabilized. Lyra released the relic and fell forward slightly. Aaron caught her before she collapsed. Her lights dimmed to their gentle glow. She looked up at him, breathing softly. "You saved me. And the colony." He shook his head. "We saved it. Together." But before he could say anything more, a weak voice echoed from a nearby tunnel. "Is someone there?" The colonists. Alive. As Ren and Dalen rushed to help, Lyra remained in Aaron's arms for a few seconds longer. Her gaze locked with his. There was something new in her eyes. Something warm. Something human. And Aaron's heart pounded, not from fear this time, but from hope. The underground chamber slowly stopped shaking as the ancient relic settled into silence. The strange light faded from the walls, and the air began to feel normal again. Aaron kept one hand on Lyra's shoulder, steadying her as she recovered from the intense strain of the connection. Her breathing was slow, and the glow in her eyes was softer now, almost gentle. Above them, the echo of voices grew louder as Ren and Dalen guided the rescued colonists into the chamber. Dust-covered faces, wide, fearful eyes, and trembling hands told the story of what they had endured. But they were alive. That alone brought a wave of relief through Aaron. One of the colonists, an older woman with silver hair, stared at Lyra with awe. You stopped it," she whispered. "The air stopped crushing us. The walls stopped bending. Thank you." Lyra gave a small bow. "I am relieved you are safe." The woman reached out shakily as if wanting to touch her, then withdrew her hand. "I thought we were going to die down here." Aaron stepped forward. "You're safe now. We'll get everyone back to the surface." The colonists nodded, some crying quietly, others simply staring at the relic with fear. Dalen and Ren began organizing them for evacuation. Aaron turned to Lyra again. "Can you walk?" he asked softly. Lyra nodded. though she seemed slightly unsteady. Yes. My system is recalibrating. The overload was temporary. Aaron noticed the faint flicker of light in her neck and wrists. You scared me, he admitted. Her eyes shifted toward him. You stood with me, she said softly. That stabilized the relic. Without your presence, I would have lost connection control. Arnhem, I know. Arnhem, I know. Arnhem, I know. He looked away for a moment, feeling heat rise to his face. Well, I wasn't going to just watch. 2. She studied him silently, her expression unreadable but warm. He wanted to say more, to ask what she had felt during their linked thoughts. But this wasn't the right place. The colonists needed them. The team began moving out of the chamber, climbing back through the tunnels. The route was long, but safer now, without the distortions. Lyra remained close to Aaron, as if she did not want to stray too far after the shared experience. When they finally reached the surface, sunlight greeted them, though the light still flickered from the last remnants of the anomalies. The shuttle stood waiting, and one by one, the colonists were loaded inside. Many held on to each other, shaking with relief. Aaron helped Lyra up the ramp. As he gently held her hand, he felt a small, subtle pressure she squeezed back, very softly, almost as if she was still unsure if such a gesture was correct. But it sent a warm rush through him anyway. Inside the shuttle, the colonists filled every seat. Ren checked their health, while Dalen worked to stabilize power for takeoff. Aaron guided Lyra to a seat, though she didn't sit until he did. She leaned closer. Your emotional output during the link was very bright, she said, almost as if the words were fragile. He swallowed. Was that a good thing or a bad thing? She looked down at her hands. I do not know, but it helped us. And it helped me understand something. He wanted to ask what she meant, but the shuttle engines roared to life, shaking the cabin. They lifted off the ground and soared upward, leaving the damaged colony behind. When they reached the Helios Vanguard, medical teams rushed to take the colonists to the infirmary. Captain Rourke arrived as soon as Aaron and Lyra stepped off the shuttle. Good work, all of you, the captain said. We received the energy readings. Whatever happened down there, you prevented a disaster. Lyra began to explain the relic's effects, but Rourke raised a hand. Save the full report for the debrief. You both look exhausted. Aaron nodded. It's been a long mission. Lyra looked at him briefly, and Aaron wondered if the captain noticed how close they were standing. But Rourke simply nodded and walked away to check on the colonists. After the crowd thinned, Aaron turned to Lyra. Do you want to rest? I should run a diagnostic, she said softly. But, before that, there is something I need to say. Aaron's heart started pounding again. Okay. I would like to talk, she said. But not here. He nodded quickly. Where? Who? Lyra hesitated. Of course, the place where everything started. They walked through the ship quietly, neither speaking. But something between them felt different now. Softer. Stronger. Aaron felt nervous, excited, confused, and hopeful all at once. The arboretum doors opened with their familiar soft hiss. Blue and violet lights glowed from the plants, just like earlier. The vines shimmered gently, casting soft shadows on the floor. Lyra walked to the center, near the same glowing vines where they had first stood that day. She touched a leaf lightly, then turned to him. Aaron, she said, her voice calm but trembling at the edges. When you spoke earlier, before the distress signal, I did not answer you. Raider. Aaron. Aaron. Raider. Raider. He nodded slowly. I know. And I wasn't expecting anything. I just... She lifted her hand gently. Please, let me finish. He nodded again. She took a small step toward him. Your words, they surprised me. I did not understand them at first. I thought perhaps you were mistaken. He blinked in confusion. Mistaken? She looked at the glowing vines. I am not fully human. My emotions are not like yours. They do not follow the same patterns. I was afraid. Afraid of what? He asked softly. Afraid that my feelings were not valid, she said. That they were not real enough. Aaron felt his chest tighten. Lyra, your feelings are real. They're yours. That's enough. She looked at him again, her amber eyes glowing brighter. When we linked minds in the chamber, I felt something. I felt your sincerity, your care, and I felt something inside myself respond in a way I did not expect. He stepped closer. What did you feel? She hesitated, as if searching for the right words. Warmth. Trust. A pull toward you that I could not explain. When your thoughts moved through mine, it was like discovering a part of myself that had been silent. Aaron's breath caught. Lyra? She took one more step, now standing close enough that he could see the faint light in her skin. And now, standing here, I feel it. Again. Her voice became even softer. You told me I am beautiful, but I am not sure if that word fits me the way it fits humans. He shook his head gently. It fits you perfectly. She looked down for a moment. Your face turned red when you said it. I remember that. He groaned quietly. Don't remind me. Her lips curved slightly, a tiny smile. Your reaction was interesting. Brucin. Brucin. Well, I was embarrassed, he muttered. I know, she said softly. And now your face is red again. He touched his cheeks, realizing she was right. I can't help it. Oh, I like it, she said simply. His heart skipped a beat. Before he could respond, she slowly reached out and placed her hand over his, the same hand he held during the relic connection. Her palm was warm. He stared at her, surprised. I want to understand this feeling more, she whispered. This connection with you. Aaron's voice grew quiet. Then we'll understand it together. A soft glow from the plants surrounded them as they stood there, holding each other's hands. The ship hummed gently around them, but in that moment, nothing else mattered. Lyra stepped a little closer. I am not very good at expressing emotions yet, she admitted, but I know one thing. What? He asked, breathless. When you said your feelings, my first response was fear, she said. But now, my response is, she hesitated. Aaron leaned in just slightly. Is what? Her eyes softened. Happiness. Aaron felt something warm bloom inside him, stronger than anything the relic had shown him. He squeezed her hand gently, and she squeezed back, not uncertain this time, but confident. The moment felt simple and peaceful and perfect. Lyra looked at him with a small, warm smile. If your face is red now, good. You started this. And Aaron, unable to fight it, laughed softly, a real laugh. One that released all the fear and tension inside him. They stood together beneath the soft blue glow, two hearts, one human, one hybrid finally moving in the same direction. Whatever came next in the galaxy, they would face it side by side. Together,